This is TWiT.
One of the things that Microsoft does have as a tremendous asset on the Xbox side is Halo, right? It's their biggest franchise. It's an amazing success. They intended to launch a new Halo game alongside the console. I don't think they've ever done that before, actually. I'd have to really think about that. But I don't believe a new Halo game has ever launched at the same time as a new console. Someone will prove me wrong within 10 seconds. But it doesn't matter because they're not doing it. Because they had that game extravaganza a couple months ago. The first game they showed was Halo. And it was terrible looking. Terrible. It was so bad. That was the one you and I, Leo, covered live.
Right.
I thought that it was purposefully terrible to show you what previous Halo games look like. And it was going to be like the beginning of...
Right.
Oh, not really the beginning, but that scene in the Wizard of Oz where it turns the color.
Yeah. I remember you even saying that.
Like all of a sudden it was going to be like high res and HDR and it was going to be beautiful. Never happened. And there's been a lot of turmoil over in 343 Industry, which is the company that now, the game studio that Microsoft owns that does Halo. These guys have thought about breaking this game up into two games where one is multiplayer and one is single player. They've thought about, trying to improve it over time because they knew the first version was going to be pretty terrible. Eventually, they just decided it was so bad they just couldn't ship it on time. And unfortunately, there's this whole industry of tie-ins that's happening on the back of it that all just came flying out from every corner of the earth, even though the game's not available. So there's all those things with like Monster Drinks and Taco Bell and, whatever the other things are. And it's just, you can't stop the marketing. It's very similar actually to the movie industry. Daniel Craig, the guy who plays James Bond, was going out on tour to talk about this new movie that was coming out right as the pandemic started. And then they kept going because they were like, well, we might have to delay it a couple of weeks because of the pandemic, but that's fine. We can still do the PR. And then eventually they realized, actually, this movie's not coming out for months and months, and maybe not even until next year now, or definitely not until next year. And they did all this PR, like back in March. And it's like, why do we do this? We're talking about a movie no one's going to be able to see until at least a year from now. And that's unfortunately kind of the situation with Halo. So it turns out this has had some repercussions. Like the guy who was running 343 got booted out, or in his words, he stepped down. And he is still technically employed by Microsoft, but he doesn't actually have a job. I think he's going to be leaving.
He's looking for his next opportunity.
Yes, he is. He wanted to spend some more time with the family, as it turns out.
Exactly.
And who wouldn't during the pandemic, So
wow, that's interesting. So
yeah.
Your instinct that there's something wrong here wasn't far off.
There have been so many indications. I mean, seeing that game, though, that day, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I just kept waiting. Like, it's going to get better. This console can do 4K, HDR, 120 frames a second.
Right.
What am I looking at? It just looked like I am playing the remastered versions of earlier Halo games, like Halo 3 and ODST. On the PC, they look better than the Halo Infinite thing. Those games are a decade old or more, or whatever they are. I don't know. Anyway, it's too bad. And it's particularly too bad because if you think back to what happened with the Xbox One, 6 or 7 years ago, whenever that was, they completely flubbed that launch, right? And it unfortunately set them up for a generation of pain. And, they've righted the ship and they've done some really good things with Xbox, obviously. But they don't need this again. Like, it's unfortunate that this had to happen because it's still, if you go to Xbox.com, you look at all the marketing materials for Xbox Series X and S, Halo. It's all over it,
Yeah.
It's not happening until next year. So. Stupid pandemic.
Hey, programmers sit at home anyway. I don't understand what they need to be at the office for or whatever it is that they're missing. I can't program with a mask on, man.
Actually, here's how you know things are bad. They brought back a guy that used to work on Halo who hasn't been at Microsoft for years to run the team to get it back on track.
Wow.
And that guy walked in the door the first day. Well, actually, it was empty. It didn't really matter what he saw. But as he examined, what was going on with that part of the company, it was like, it must have been a mess.
Yeah. So you don't think this guy was a fall guy? You think it really he deserves something?
Well, you're always going to cut off the head of the snake, but that's where the blame has to lie, right?
Right. Somebody's got to crack the whip, keep these creative types in line.